my relationship with financial scarcity has always been bittersweet. It's an experience that I hated, but I can't deny the value. It's taken a lot, my peace, my creativity, my sense of control. But somehow, it's also given me everything. Scarcity has been the most painful teacher, yet the most honest one. In a world where we're taught that money is what gives us not just material things, but emotional ones too: stability, confidence, worth, I've learned something different. Through scarcity, I've developed the kind of worth, value, respect, responsibility, spirituality, creativity, and perspective that comfort never would have given me. Looking back, I don't think I would have become who I am without this experience. I'm not sharing this to romanticize struggle, but to offer perspective, or maybe a bit of wisdom if you're going through the same thing. Scarcity can make you feel powerless, ashamed, or forgotten. But it also has a way of showing you who you are underneath all that fear. Self-worth. When I say scarcity gave me self-worth, I'm not talking about finding peace in lack. I'm talking about how scarcity exposed what I was tolerating and forced me to recognize my own value through contrast. Scarcity made me measure the true cost of survival. Every paycheck came with an invisible price: my time, my energy, my sense of peace. It put me in situations where I could finally see the imbalance between what I gave and what I received. The exhaustion became data. It showed me that what I was accepting in return didn't match what I was pouring out. It made me question my own self-value. It wasn't about being lazy or ungrateful. It was about dignity. I started asking myself, why am I sacrificing my body, my mind, my energy to something that doesn't nourish me back? That's where self-worth began to take root, not in luxury, but in realizing that my life and my peace are too sacred to keep trading away. Scarcity turned survival into self-definition. It cornered me into a choice: either keep compromising or choose differently. That moment of choice is where self-worth was born. Scarcity didn't give me money. It gave me a mirror that showed me how low I'd been valuing myself. It also revealed that abundance isn't just having more money. It's the experience of reciprocity. I stopped wanting to chase the bare minimum and started wanting what reflects my energy back to me equally, whether that's a job, a path, or a relationship. That shift is what self-worth looks like in motion. The deeper truth I uncovered is that self-worth doesn't reveal itself in comfort. It reveals itself in confrontation. Scarcity confronted me with the limits of my own tolerance. It made me ask, why am I normalizing pain as part of earning? Why am I accepting imbalance as a fair trade? Why do I call this stability when it's actually suffering that pays the bills? That was the shift. Scarcity stopped being the villain and became the teacher that refused to let me stay asleep in self-abandonment. When I was working jobs that drained me, the pain wasn't coming from laziness or entitlement. It was coming from the spiritual friction of living below my truth. My body, my nervous system, my spirit, they were all rebelling against a life that asked too much and gave too little. And in that rebellion, I started to meet myself. I realized I wasn't lazy for wanting peace. I wasn't ungrateful for wanting better. I was simply outgrowing survival as my identity. Scarcity gave me self-worth by showing me that I can't keep betraying myself and still call it survival. It showed me that peace is not a luxury. It's a form of wealth. And here's the thing. Peace is literally free. It showed me that rest, joy, and purpose are not bonuses. They're my God-given right, not a price tag. It showed me that I was made for more than endurance. So self-worth wasn't something I learned. It was a threshold I crossed. I stopped measuring my value by what I could tolerate and started measuring it by what I refused to keep suffering for. If I had to distill it into one line, it would be this. Scarcity gave me self-worth because it forced me to see that survival without self-value isn't living. It's slow self-erasure. Spiritual compass. When I say financial scarcity grew my spiritual compass, I mean that being stripped of material stability expanded my ability to navigate life through intuition, faith, and inner alignment instead of external certainty. Scarcity forced me to rely on inner guidance. When the usual safety nets, money, predictability, routine fell away, I didn't have the comfort of logic and control to lean on anymore. I had to develop a deeper sensitivity to my inner signals, my intuition, my timing, my energy. I started asking myself, what feels right, instead of what makes sense. That's what a spiritual compass really is, learning how to find direction when there are no external maps left. It deepened my relationship with trust. Scarcity taught me that faith isn't about believing when things are easy. It's about staying rooted when there's no proof that things will work out. I had to let go of the illusion that money equals safety and build a different kind of security, one grounded in my connection to God, the universe, and my own resilience. My compass grew sharper because I learned how to move through uncertainty without losing my sense of direction. It also expanded my awareness of value and energy. Scarcity made me spiritually literate in energy exchange. I started seeing the world less through transaction and more through vibration, realizing that giving, receiving, and creating all operate on the same energetic principles. I learned that wealth isn't just financial. It's the ability to circulate energy without fear or attachment. And it taught me discernment. When options are limited, you start to feel the energetic temperature of everything: people, opportunities, spaces. Scarcity sharpened my ability to sense what aligns with my higher path versus what's just another survival loop. That discernment, that ability to feel truth, became my compass. So when I say financial scarcity grew my spiritual compass, I'm really saying this. When I had nothing to rely on but faith, I learned how to hear God and myself more clearly, not in words, but in direction. Scarcity stripped me of stability so I could learn how to navigate by spirit. But developing a spiritual compass through scarcity isn't the end of the lesson. It's the beginning of a new kind of responsibility. It means I start trusting what I feel more than what I fear. Scarcity pressure tested my intuition, and now I actually use it. I stop gaslighting my gut just to make logical choices that look safe but drain me. I follow the pull, even when it doesn't make sense on paper. That's how I live with the compass, instead of just admiring it. It means I move with both faith and structure. My compass doesn't mean I reject practicality. It just means I stop leading with panic. I still plan, I still budget, I still apply for jobs, but I do it from alignment rather than desperation. My compass keeps me anchored while I rebuild the material side of my life. It means I choose alignment over approval. Once your compass grows, the world will constantly test it. Jobs, people, opportunities that look like they are the answers to all your problems, but they really aren't in the long run. Living by my compass means honoring what feels right, even when it costs me comfort or validation. It's letting my inner truth outrank outer appearances. It means I live by energy exchange, not extraction. Scarcity taught me what imbalance feels like. So now I only want to engage with things that flow both ways. Whether it's money, work, or relationships, I ask myself, does this nourish me back? That question has become my navigation system. So what do I do with it? I stop letting fear dictate my path. I let my compass, that quiet knowing built in the dark, guide me toward the things that reflect the peace, balance, and reciprocity I now understand as true wealth. Yes, rent is due on the 1st. That's exactly what makes this so painful. Scarcity convinces you that having no money means you have no options. That lie forces you to choose the kind of suffering that keeps you small. I decided that if I'm going to feel pain either way, I'd rather choose the pain that expands me, the discomfort that builds a life I actually want, instead of the kind that drains my life force just to survive another month. Call it idealistic if you want. I call it honest. I'm going to die someday, and I refuse to spend the one life I have earning crumbs while my soul starves. There is too much world left to live, too much of myself left to meet. The least I owe my existence is to try. Responsibility. When I say scarcity gave me responsibility, I mean it made me grow up, not just in age, but in awareness. It made me see that nothing changes until I do. When you don't have much, every choice counts. Every dollar, every hour, every ounce of energy starts to matter. Scarcity made me intentional. It forced me to pay attention to where my energy was going, what I was feeding, what I was wasting, what I was giving away for free. It made me realize that freedom doesn't come from having more. It comes from being aware of what I already have and what I do with it. It also made me accountable for my energy. When resources are limited, you start to see how expensive stress and self-betrayal really are. I couldn't afford to keep leaking energy into things that didn't feed me back. So I started taking responsibility, not just for my money, but for my mindset, for my emotions, my focus, my frequency. I learned that my inner world is part of my economy. Scarcity also taught me stewardship, not control. I stopped trying to force outcomes and started asking how I could care for what was already in my hands. How could I multiply it, nourish it, respect it? That's what responsibility became for me, not perfection, but care. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I stopped waiting for rescue. Scarcity showed me that nobody's coming to save me. That sounds harsh, but it was freeing. It made me step into authorship over my own life. If I wanted change, I had to move, build, and create it. Even if it was small, even if it was messy. I didn't have any other choice except for what I choose to create. It also gave my faith structure. I used to think faith meant believing and waiting. Scarcity taught me that faith also means doing, building, applying, showing up, managing, trusting. It turned faith into discipline. So when I say scarcity gave me responsibility, I mean it taught me how to carry what I pray for. It made me stop living passively. It made me see myself as the one who has to protect, shape, and sustain the life I want. Scarcity taught me that abundance isn't just something you receive. It's something you have to be mature enough to handle. Talent. When I say scarcity gave me talent and faith in myself, I don't mean I was fearless or resilient. The reality is, I was scared as hell. I didn't want to be experiencing scarcity. I wanted the easy way. I wanted comfort, stability, and proof that everything was going to be okay. But the truth is, if I got whatever I wanted, I probably wouldn't have pursued my natural talents. I wouldn't have stretched the parts of me that were waiting to be used. Scarcity backed me into a corner, and I had to face myself. Not because I was brave, but because I didn't have any other choice. There was no plan B, no safety net, no shortcut, just me. And in that space, I started creating out of necessity. I started discovering things I was actually good at, not because I felt inspired, but because I had to figure out how to survive in a way that didn't destroy me. That's where the talent came from, the need to build something that felt like me when the world wasn't giving me what I wanted. Scarcity made me choose myself when I felt like the world wasn't choosing me. And in doing that, I found parts of me I didn't know existed. I found faith in my ability to create, to express, to pull something out of thin air. So when I say scarcity gave me talent and faith in myself, I mean it forced me to tap into what was already inside of me. It made me meet the version of me that doesn't wait to be chosen. She just creates. It was never about the money. When I say scarcity taught me that it was never about the money, I mean I realized the lesson was never really financial. It was energetic. It was about mindset, attachment, and meaning, not the number in my account. Money was the surface symptom, not the lesson. Scarcity made me believe my struggle was about money, but what it really showed me was who I become when it's gone. It revealed my attachments, my fears, and the beliefs I held about safety and worth. The real lesson was make more money. It was understand what money mirrors. It was never about the dollar amount. It was about how I related to myself through it. The chase for money was really the chase for safety. I thought having more would fix the anxiety, the doubt, the instability. But scarcity exposed that what I truly craved wasn't cash, it was peace. I realized I wasn't chasing money. I was chasing permission to feel safe. And peace doesn't come from anything external. It comes from how grounded I am inside when everything external shifts. Scarcity redefined what wealth means to me. I learned that wealth isn't measured by what's in my account. It's measured by what's in my awareness. My ability to trust myself, to rest without guilt, to live from alignment. That's real wealth. Money amplify those things, but the rest is perception. I learned that wealth starts where fear ends. Scarcity also showed me what truly sustains me. It stripped everything back until only the essentials were left. My faith, my creativity, my relationships, my breath. And that's when I realized those were the real currencies all along. When the numbers disappeared, I had to learn how to live off my spirit. Scarcity stripped the illusion of control. Money used to symbolize safety, a way to manage uncertainty, to quiet the noise of what if. But when I lost it, that illusion shattered. I saw how fragile that sense of control really was. At first, it was terrifying, because if money can't guarantee stability, then what can? But over time, that terror became revelation. It was never about control at all. It was about surrender. It was about learning how to exist in uncertainty without collapsing. I thought I wanted more money, and I do. Always, I love money. But what I really wanted was to stop feeling powerless. Scarcity made me confront the real question. If everything external falls apart, what do I still stand on? Reality. Scarcity taught me what's really at stake, depending on perspective. It showed me that financial scarcity isn't just about not having money. It's a war between your mind and your spirit. I lost my creative drive. I cried a lot. I had a crisis in faith and a crisis in myself. Survival mode is no joke, it's debilitating. It numbs your ability to dream, to plan, to feel safe in your own body. What I was feeling internally was 10 times worse than what I was actually going through externally. But that fear, that panic, that exhaustion was still valid. There's a very real danger that comes with financial scarcity because you're fighting two battles at once. The outer one that demands stability and the inner one that demands surrender. It's a war between the left side of the brain and the right, logic versus intuition, faith versus evidence, belief versus proof. You try to stay faithful, but everything around you seems to contradict what you're praying and striving for. You try to make the right choices, but you still don't get chosen. There's a kind of spiritual gaslighting that happens when you're practicing faith and life keeps testing it. You start questioning everything: your intuition, your timing, even God. Perspective helps sometimes, but not always. Sometimes it saves me, and sometimes it feels like another mind game to survive the day. But I've learned that the negative perspective, the one that tells me it's hopeless, that I'm behind, that I'm cursed, only makes things worse. Because scarcity already screams loud enough on its own. It doesn't need my agreement to get louder. Scarcity taught me that it was never just about the money. It was about who I become when everything's gone. It was about what I stand on when there's nothing left to stand on. Conclusion. At the time this article is released, I'm currently not yet writing from the finish line. I'm writing from the threshold. These are lessons I learned in real life, through my early adulthood, through my own struggle, and through watching others navigate theirs. I'm 25, and this is where my perception has taken me so far. Struggle is not punishment. Struggle is data. And the resolution is what you choose to do with that data. In my case, I decided that if scarcity was going to show up in my life, I wasn't going to let it make me small. I wasn't going to let it crush me without teaching me something. I used my struggle to empower me, to build me, to grow me spiritually and mentally, instead of letting it debilitate me forever. Scarcity has been a painful teacher, but the wisdom I gained wasn't just a hustle mindset. It was self-value. It was meaning. It was a deeper understanding of what a life is supposed to feel like. At my lowest, I refuse to go without that meaning. And when I'm rich, I'm going to thrive both materially and spiritually, because that's the kind of wealth I want. That's what I'm working toward. That's what all